Hi, Algebra students. In this lesson, we are going to be talking about how to determine the equation of a line given 2 points. And actually, we're going to find that some of the practice problems give you a slope and a point that's not the y-intercept. Okay, we've done that before with slope-intercept form. You know how to find the equation of a line given a slope and a point. But we're actually going to be using a different form for some of the problems of this lesson. We're going to be using point slope form. Okay, and what point slope form is, it's the second most useful form of an equation, in my opinion. What it does is it allows us to use the same sort of format, y equals mx plus b, except instead of having a plus b and b is the y-intercept, I have a point. I just put a point right into the equation, one of the points that's on the line. So this is the y coordinate of a point on the line, and this is the x coordinate of a point on the line. As long as I have a point on the line, I plug that in for y and x, and this will give me a line that passes through that point and that has the slope m. So we're going to jump right into the lesson practice right away. And for this first one, I could graph this on a piece of graph paper. Okay, and the way that I would do that is I would put a point at this point, 5 along the x-axis, 6 up along the y-axis. Okay, so at the point 5, 6, I would plot that point, and then I know it has a slope of 2, so I go up 2 over 1, up 2 over 1. I get 2 more points that way, and then I could go down 2 to the left 1, down 2 to the left 1, and plot those points. Connect all of those points, and I'd have a line. I've actually got this already plotted into GeoGebra though. Notice that the point 5, 6 is on this graph. And then from there, it goes up 2 over 1, up 2 over 1. Or I could start at 5, 6 and go down to left 1, down to left 1. Okay, so that's how I would plot this if I were doing it on graph paper. But I want to show you what I did to graph this. I put this in point slope form. Now, I knew that 5, 6 was one of the points on this line. I also knew I had a slope of 2. So the very first thing I do is I wrote y equals 2x. But then I had to put in my point. So I knew that the y coordinate of my point was 6. So instead of just writing y on this side, I wrote y minus 6 equals 2 times the other coordinate was a positive 5. So it's x minus 5. And what that does is it guarantees that the point 5, 6 is going to be on my graph, and it's going to have a slope of 2. So it goes up 2 over 1, up 2 over 1. All right, that's how I would graph this one. Next, I need to graph a line that has a slope of 0 and passes through the point -1, 1. Is this going to work if I have a slope of 0? Well, let's just try this out. So the graph would look like this: y minus, and let's see, it passes through -1, 1. So that means that my y value is 1 equals 0 times x minus -1. All right, now 0 times anything is going to be 0. So actually, this is just the equation y minus 1 equals 0, and I add 1 to both sides, I get y equals 1. That's this equation right here. But did I meet the criteria? By the way, and I would just graph y equals 1. I knew it had a slope of 0, so I knew it was going to be a horizontal line, and I knew it had to pass through the point -1, 1. So it's going to be a horizontal line through y equals 1. And that's exactly what it is. Does this pass through the point -1, 1? Let's see. -1, 1. Yes, that's this point right here. And it's just a horizontal line that passes through that point. So for this one, I did graph it using point slope form, but I didn't have to. I could have just said it was the line y equals 1. All right. Now, to get into some that you actually have to solve, they're not just graphing problems. Write the equation of a line that has a slope of 6 and passes through the point 7, 9 in point slope form. Hey, you should recognize that writing these in point slope form is actually not that difficult. So for letter C, let's see if we can do this. The general equation is going to be y minus something equals the slope. hey, the slope is 6 times x minus something. Okay. Now my something for y is the number 9. I have to plug in the y coordinate of the point I know. Okay, so it's going to be y minus 9. Hey, common mistake that students make is they'll plug in 7 because 7 is what appears first in the xy coordinate pair. So they'll want to plug it in first in the equation too. But remember, you have to put your y coordinate next to the y variable. So it's y minus your y coordinate, x minus your x coordinate. This is the equation in point slope form for a line that has a slope of 6 and that passes through the point 7, 9. All right, let's do letter D. Write the equation of a line that passes through the points 2, 3, and 7, 4 in slope-intercept form. Okay, we want slope-intercept form here. Here's how we're going to do this. The first thing we need to do is use the slope formula to find the slope. Slope equals y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. I'm just going to clean this up a little bit. I should put these in parentheses, and then these should be subscripts, which is easy enough to do. Okay, so I need to plug in my y's being subtracted from each other and my x's being subtracted from each other. So this is going to equal, let's see, y2 is the second y. That's going to be 4 minus my first y is negative 3. I'm going to have a 4 minus a negative 3. That's 4 plus 3, right? Divided by, and let's see, x2 is 7 minus x1 is 2. Okay. By the way, if you're using your second point first, and your second point is the one that's further along on the x-axis, what that's going to do is it's going to always make your denominator positive. So usually when you use slope formula, if you set things up right, your denominator is positive. If it's not, it still could be right, but you'd have to explain why it's right. All right, so 4 minus negative 3 is 7 over 7 minus 2 is 5. This one has a slope of 7 over 5. Okay. And now I know it passes. So let's just write out generally what we know. In slope intercept form, it's going to be y equals mx. M is going to be 7 over 5 times x plus b. But in order to have a correct equation in slope-intercept form, I have to fill in something for b. Y and x remain variables. I need something for b. Well, okay, so I need to figure out the value of b. I could figure that out by plugging in one of my points. The x and y are one of my points. I'm going to choose the point 2, negative 3, because I like working with smaller numbers rather than larger numbers. And I'm just going to plug those points in for x and y. The y is negative 3 equals, and then my x is 2. So it's going to be 7 over 5 times 2 plus b. Now we solve for b. Well, 7 over 5 times 2, I'm going to multiply the numerator of this by 2. It's like 7 over 5 times 2 over 1. That's going to become 14 over 5. Okay, so I'm going to simplify that first. And then I'm going to subtract both sides by 14 fifths. 14 fifths, let's see, in order to do this, I'm going to change this side into fifths. Negative 3 is the same as negative 15 fifths. And I'm going to be subtracting 14 fifths from both sides. So what I'm going to get is b is equal to negative 29 over 5. B equals negative 29 over 5. So my final equation is ugly, but sometimes they are. Okay, it's going to be y equals 7 fifths x minus 29 fifths. It's 29 fifths is the same as 5 and 4 fifths, so it's minus 5 and 4 fifths. That means it crosses the y-axis at negative 5 and 4 fifths. Okay, all right, that's D. Now let's do letter E, about Trevor losing at a computer game. Trevor began a computer game with 3 points. After 1 minute, he had negative 1 point. So at 0 minutes, he had 3 points. At 1 minute, he had negative 1 points. At 2 minutes, he had negative 5 points. See, I'm making some coordinate pairs. How many points will he have after 3 minutes of play. Okay, so that's what I'm solving for. You could maybe just figure this out by inspection. Wait a second, for every one that this goes up, the y value goes down 4. That's a slope observation you could make, and you might just observe that this is going to be -9. Let's see if we can figure it out by using linear equation, though. So my linear equation would be y equals mx plus b. I need an m first. To get the slope, I need to take two of my points and do y2 minus y1. I'm going to just take the first 2 points. -1 minus 3 over x2 minus x1. It's going to be 1 minus 0 or 0. Anything divided by 1 is just itself, okay? So it's going to be -1 minus 3 over 1. -1 minus 3 is just -4. So the slope is -4. In other words, he's losing 4 points per minute. The slope is down 4 over 1 minute, down 4 points over 1 minute, down 4 points over 1 minute. Okay, so I know that y equals negative 4x plus b, but I don't have b yet, so I'm going to plug in one of my points. I'm going to plug in 0, 3. 0 for x, 3 for y. So let's do that. 3 equals -4 times 0 plus b. Well, -4 times 0 is just 0, so that means that b equals 3. So my final equation is just going to be y equals my slope, -4x plus 3. All right, now, how many points will he have after 3 minutes of playing the computer game? Let's plug in 3 for x. -4 times 3 is -12. -12 plus 3 is -9. I did get -9. So after 3 minutes, Trevor will have -9 points. And that's just because I could write it this way if I wanted to. If I wanted to write it in function notation, for my function of f of 3 equals -9. If I plug -3 into this function, I get a value of, if I plug 3 into this function, I get a value of -9 points. All right, that's how you do these problems. You should do numbers 1 through 34 next time.